Hey everyone, I'm here today to introduce SuperSolo, a new free plugin. So this is basically the default Cinem4D Solo on steroids. You can solo a bunch of objects and deselect them, you can focus them, and you can isolate them in the object manager, and a bunch of other cool little features, so I'll come back to that in a minute. So on getting this, you will get the Chroma plugin manager. Think of this as kind of like an all-in-one package manager to keep all of these plugins updated. You can see as well that it updates itself. This is designed because Gumroad's system is a bit rudimentary, so if I needed to push an update to any plugins, I need to email you guys. You then need to kind of follow your email and go back to Gumroad, and then you would download the new version, and it's kind of long, and logging into websites and updating, it's not great. So everything lives in the plugin manager, and you can install, open and update and check your licensing all from this plugin manager, and then it can update itself as well. The only thing that you would need to do to go back to Gumroad for is to buy the plugin if you've not already kind of purchased it and you want to install it. This will say grab when I kind of update this, so I'm just going to pause the video here and update the plugin manager, and I'll be right back. Just before that, if you have downloaded this will create a menu at the top called Chroma, and then you can launch Plugin Manager. Alternatively, you can go to Extensions, go to Chroma, and you will have the plugins there. If you don't like the top menu, if you go into Cinem4D Prefs, you'll have a Chroma menu down here, and then you'll have all your information for Voxmark, or you can move your plugins folder. I have mine in Dropbox, but I also recommend using it to the user plugins folder. You can click a button here to do that, and then you've got some preferences here for SuperSolo, so I'll come back to that after the restart, so I'll be back in a second. So back here we can see that SuperSolo is available, can install it, and this is grab, so the grab will take you to the website to go get a serial to license it with. It's perfectly free to do so. You just enter 0 on Gumroad, and then you will get emailed a serial key, and then you can come back here, click install, and then enter your serial. So I'll install this now, install, and then I can reload now or later. So because this has not been installed just yet, the way Cinema works, it needs to load the plugin first, and then you need to restart for the plugin to be picked up. But once the plugin's already kind of running, like we can see with these others, if I had an update, I'd be able to update in place without restarting Cinema. But that's just the way that Cinema works. I can't make it any more optimized than that. So for the first time you install it, it will just be an install, you restart Cinema, and then for every update you can just click update. So it will say open, but it won't actually open. I can show you here, because it's not running in the background, it needs to be initialized when it's loaded. So I'll be back in a second. So I'm back, and here you can see the installed version is 0.1, and that's the latest version, and we have it in its license. So you can click here to license, you can click here to reveal your key, it tells you what type of license it is. So all of these plugins are perpetual, so you got them for life, including any updates to make them work. So this is working in the latest version of Cinema 2026.2. So yeah, here we go, we can start working with it. So what I would say to do is, if you go into Window, Customization, Customize Palettes, if you come in here and then you search for SuperSolo, you can see that we've got two different versions here. We've got SuperSolo, this is the actual Solo plugin, and then we have a tag. So I just drag those out to your to one of your palettes, and then kind of leave that there. And then if you do Window Customization and then save a startup layout, it will always be there. So then you can just have that there all the time and get working with it. So I'll introduce you to kind of how it works. So if I make a bunch of cubes, I'm just going to put them in the cloner, or hold Ctrl and Alt so that they all kind of get dumped in there. And then if I just spread these out a little bit, I didn't really need to make several, could have just done one, but there you go. So you can see this has made this at the origin, so the origin is here, all our cubes are here. So let's say I want to start soloing things, right? So I could have a crazy complicated hierarchy, and I just kind of want to get in here and I want to solo this thing. So quickest way is literally just click solo, and you can see by default it will solo this in the object manager, and it will solo it in the window, and you will get a change of your viewport background to show that you're in solo mode, because it's easy to forget that, and you get this white outline. You will also notice that we've got two different layers here, so it adds everything to a hidden layer and it turns that stuff off. So the cool thing about this is that if you've got a really heavy scene going on and you're finding it a bit of a struggle to move around in your viewport, once everything's added to this hidden layer, all of your generators and everything else will be turned off, so you'll find that soloing means that you're back to being super snappy to work on what you need to work on inside your scene, which is super handy. And also if you've had things in previous layers and you want to kind of solo, it will replace those back to where they used to be. So I'll just make a bunch of layers now. So new layer from object selection. So I'll just put these in their own layers just to prove this, and then I'll select all this and then go to solo. So you can see that soloing all of that adds these to the new layer. We've got chroma visible, chroma hidden, unsoloing, suddenly all that disappears and everything goes back to where it was. And so we're all good. So additionally, it might be that you want to make a solo and you want to look at these guys, but then you decide actually I don't want this cube over here. You don't want that in the solo anymore, so you can click that, and then if you hold shift on this cube and then click, it removes it from your solo. So you're still active in solo, but you've removed that guy from there, and then you can work with whatever else that you want to keep kind of working with. So if I unclick this, kind of return back to normal. If you hover over this as well, you can see down in the bottom left it says solo selection, shift viewport only, control frame or Alt 0. So I'll get into those. So if I just kind of click a bunch of these and then I hold shift when I click solo, I'm just going to get rid of these layers for now. Okay, so that seems, I know why this is because of this top level. So I'll come back to that in a second. So if I now click shift and I click those, it will keep everything in the hierarchy visible inside the object manager. So it's only visibly soloing these cubes, it's not soloing everything else. So you can still work with everything else that's going on in the object manager. And then that brings me to why that didn't work a second ago, and it's because of the hierarchy. So this is why this tag exists. So if I add a SuperSolo ignore tag, and then I shift, I'll just go into full solo mode by just clicking it. So it will solo those two cubes that I want to solo, but you can see here that this with the tag is kind of being preserved. So I never clicked on this, but it will keep the hierarchy. And so I could make this kind of go, just clicking Alt and G here. So if I put that up there and then I kind of solo this one cube, then I kind of get that top level. And then you could kind of copy this to your children to kind of see those as well if you really wanted to. And so if we click solo, you can see that whole hierarchy just by clicking on the cube. So yeah, so that's a cool way to kind of preserve that stuff. Additionally, so we're way off of the origin here, I can select all of my cubes and then I can hold control and click, and it will zoom and focus to those cubes and then make the solo. And so I'm just kind of bam, zoomed in, I'm working away, can do any adjustments I need to do. So if I unsolo, I'm kind of just unsolos and I'm back to where I want to be. So if I want to center these to the origin, if I select them, I can hold Alt and hit solo, and it will do the exact same thing, but it will move everything to 0, but kind of keeping the positions of each object relative to each other as a group, and it will center the group to the center. So if this was kind of, I just undo that. If this is kind of a little bit over here, and this is a little bit over here, and this is a little bit over here, and then I kind of say, if I come out of that and then hold Alt, then it will still try its best to center all those around the origin, which is kind of handy. So yeah, so I can come out of here, and then the same will work in all the other viewports as well. So if I'm over here and then I kind of want to focus on this guy, if I hit solo, you can see it changes all of the different viewports. Or I can do Ctrl and click and it will zoom into that. If you're not keen on this default color, there is a preference, so you can kind of go into Cinema preferences, and then if you go to Chroma, and you can change whatever your tint color you want it to be. So you could just make it kind of a lighter grey if you wanted, and that's a tint. So if I now go into solo mode, you can see, and so you can play with that as much as you want, basically. Set it to whatever color you like. And then additionally, there's a little helper. So if you're in a camera and you've got a ton of cameras set up, and like you're looking, let me just move all of this to kind of, if I Alt+click that and then center everything and then come out. So my camera's here, I'm going to come out of it, I'm just going to move it back a little bit. So I'm looking at all of this stuff, and then say I want to then just solo it, right, and I want to do the control to focus and solo. So it will give me a little pop-up and it will say camera's active, deactivate it first, because otherwise you'll be zooming the camera and adjusting that. So you can set a preference not to remind you for the session, or just never remind you ever. So if you hit this setting and you hit OK, it will kind of set it in the preferences, and it will set it there. So if you ever kind of do it and then you want to undo it, it lives there to undo. And I think that should be it, really. So yeah, you can kind of work with this however you want. Super handy. Just one button with different kind of overrides using Shift, Ctrl and Alt. I don't think I can live without this versus this version that Cinema ship is super basic. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy it. It's free. Let me know kind of what you think. Drop a message on the Discord if you've got any problems or feedback. Always kind of wanting to hear from you guys to make these things the best they can be. Cheers.